Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Only Football. Kyle and I are going to be going over week 7, recapping a crazy fucking week 7 in the NFL. We're going to go into our running back of the week, and then we're going to do our top five. And then we're going to end it off, always, of course, with the Chives with Kyle. Let's get it.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Only Football, the Week 7 recap with Kyle and Rick. Super excited to go over this week. This week was a wild week. I mean, you got teams blowing out teams that are supposed to be good. You got bad teams who are supposed to lose getting dubs against teams that they shouldn't be winning. It was a wild week. So let's get right into it. We did our Thursday night recap with Jaguars and Saints. We're going to start on Sunday with maybe the most surprising game of the week, and that's going to be the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people thought Detroit was going to come into this game and handle business. The Ravens were favored to win, but not by 32 points. Rick, what's your takeaway from this game?
Dude, you said it. Like you said people came into this game and were like, oh, the Lions are going to come in. It's going to be a good game. It's probably going to be the premier game of the morning slate. And we were fucking wrong, dude. Like this game, 38 to 12
6,
or something like
12.
that, 38 to 6.
Yeah,
like
6.
Yeah, like what happened here? And I don't know what to say for the Lions. I don't know who this says more about, whether it says more about the Ravens offense and what they did to this Lions defense or just the Lions. I honestly, I think this has to say a lot about the Baltimore Ravens as a team. Their offensive game has gotten better, scored 38 points. They've lost some games against the Steelers, specifically where we're just like, what the hell was that, right? Dropped passes. The offense couldn't get going. The defense was trying, but just could not do enough. But this game, dude, all 3 units showed up for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson was killing it as well. Just stats wise, 21 for 27, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gus Edwards rushed for a score, and Lamar Jackson had a score. He had 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns in just an absolute slice and dice of this Detroit Lions team. I don't know what to say for the Lions. Like I said, Jared Goff tried 284 yards on 53 attempts. The Lions attempted passes 53 times. And that's only because they were down, early. So they had to abandon the run because Jahmyr Gibbs only got 11 carries. He got 68 yards with it. Like, sure, that's awesome, but only 11 carries. So I think to me, this game says a lot more about Lamar Jackson, this offense really starting to click, and this defense continuing to be pretty dominant. The Ravens, I think, came into this one with a pretty top half defense, and they weren't leading, but they were like in the tops in the NFL in some categories. So I think you got to give all the credit to Baltimore in this game. The Detroit Lions just did not come out to play today, that game.
Yeah, and when a game goes like this, man, I'm telling you, it gets out of hand quick. And I think this is just one of those games where because Detroit was down so big that they didn't really have an opportunity to get back in. And why is that? Well, like you said, Goff, 284 yards, right? And then you look down and you're like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 13 receptions, 102 yards. What was the deal when you were watching this game? The Lions were able to move the ball, but really what changed this game was because they were down, they didn't want to settle for field goals. When you're down 20 points, you got to go for touchdowns. And Baltimore right now ranks 2nd in the NFL in NFL team opponent red zone scoring percentage. In this game, the Lions 0% of their red zone trips turned into scoring.
Jeez.
So this is, to
Jesus.
me, just the Ravens playing really good red zone defense. Detroit not having the luxury to settle for field goals because they needed touchdowns because they got behind early and like they got their asses kicked. I don't think that Detroit's a bad team. I think the Ravens played their best game of the season. And I think Detroit just didn't have the answers in the red zone. I do think it's a good game for the Lions to kind of, okay, this is where we're at. We played a good team. You know, a lot of people kind of went into this game saying the Lions haven't really beaten any good teams.
Yeah.
And then, you know, here we go with a measuring stick game and you get your ass kicked. But
yeah,
Baltimore, they haven't been, you know, this dominant team all year by any means. So I do think you got to give the Ravens the credit. They played their best game of the season. Lamar Jackson looked awesome in this game. He looked like vintage MVP Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And I know I've been critical of him at times, so I want to make sure to point that out. If Lamar Jackson can play like he played on Sunday, this team could win a Super Bowl. The question is the consistency, and are they going to be able to build off of this, or is this just a 1 week, you know, everything went right? And I'm looking forward to kind of getting the answers to that as we move on.
Yeah, no, the Lions got sacked 5 times. Jared Goff got sacked 5 times, man. And like you said, I'm just going to agree with you. Like, I've also been kind of critical about the offense for the Ravens, but they got it all going, man. Like you said, credit to the Ravens in this game.
And I want to know, what are you more surprised about, the Ravens winning or our next game, the Chicago Bears winning at home 30-12, fucking destroyed the Raiders, dude. I mean, I did not see this coming at all. The Chicago Bears are good. What's going on?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, somehow the Bears won. They beat the Raiders. The Raiders were one of those teams coming into week 7 where we're like, oh, are they good? Are they not good? They've shown flashes. They've been beaten. They looked good sometimes offense. Devontae Adams is a monster. Josh Jacobs was the leading rusher last year. Jimmy G was obviously hurt in this one, so they had to bring in Brian Hoyer and in O'Connell. But even those two guys, you know, pretty decent backups. But the Bears with Tyson Bagent, their backup quarterback, Division II guy, never in his life probably thought he was going to start an NFL game, came into it and, you know, the stats weren't amazing. He had 162 yards, but he scored a touch. He threw for a touchdown, his first ever. And he was able to get the ball downfield when, you know, the plays were called for passing plays, right? Like, he was able to get the ball out quickly, not stick around, wait for a sack, which is something that as Bears fans, Fields does quite a bit and we get irritated by. But Tyson Bagent got the ball out quick. Deontay Foreman, by the way, great fucking game. 3 touchdowns, ran the ball like a madman. Him and Darrington Evans really, really got the ball going on the ground. 48 yards for Evans, 89 yards for Deontay Foreman. A lot of the receivers, not crazy games. DJ Moore was the leading receiver, 8 receptions and 54 yards. But Tyson Bagent hit 8 different receivers. Not something you see a lot from Fields. Now, I don't want anybody to listen to this and be like, oh, he thinks Bagent's the guy. No. I'm just excited. And I said this on Big League Chicago, but I'm going to say this because Kyle and I have like the same, I guess, different personalities, where Kyle is like, no, settle down. This is what the stats say, and this is what logic says, where I'm just like an overreactor, and I'm like, the Bears are going to the fucking Super Bowl. Tyson Bagent's the guy. So I don't want anybody to take it like that away from this. I'm excited because it was a win and because I predicted it a loss. And I'm excited that the defense did really well. They let up a garbage time touchdown, but the offense was able to put up 30 points, no problem, mostly on the ground, though, which is what's expected because the Bears have been one of the best teams on the ground. The Raiders, on the other hand, when you have Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell as your quarterbacks, it's going to be a tough day, even when you feed Devontae Adams like all day, 7 receptions, 57 yards. Like the only touchdown came from Jacoby Myers in garbage time. But Josh Jacobs got absolutely like held today. That game, 35 yards rushing. And I think the Bears as a team, total yards, 235 yards given up. So you got to give credit to this defense for the Bears and the offense for the Bears, the coaching. Although Eberflus had a weird second quarter 2-minute drill, like clock management. Not going to go into that. Go catch Big League Chicago for that. But Bears win, man. I'm happy about it. Their second win of the year. And it was against a Raiders team that is, was 3-3, 3-4 now. All credit to the Bears, man. They really held this Raiders team to absolutely nothing in this game.
Yeah, and I think for the Raiders, it's a little bit like, hey, weren't the Raiders kind of starting to get something going? Or aren't they starting to win some games? Aren't they starting to get an identity and get tight ends involved? And now here, Justin Fields is out. The Raiders go to Chicago. I think everyone just assumed that the Raiders were going to get the win. And it's not really, I mean, I'm blown away that they lost this game. I'm even more blown away that they lost this game by 18 points. I mean, I just, and like you said, it was a garbage time touchdown. So this wasn't, this was not a close game by any means. But the Raiders also, they're with Aiden O'Connell. Jimmy G's hurt. So, I mean, he was 10 for 13. And then they had Brian Hoyer, 17 for 32. Man, there's just nothing good about the stat sheet. I mean, you look at Josh Jacobs, 11 carries, 35 yards. Not good. Devontae Adams had that beef with Jacoby Myers going to, I don't know if it was Jacoby Myers, but it was like, hey, I need to be targeted. Well, Jacoby Myers was targeted one more time than Devontae Adams in this game. They both ended up with 7 receptions, 57 to 50 yards. Yeah. Devontae Adams with the edge. But I just don't know if you're a fan, like what you do with this team, because like it's one thing to be, the Broncos and the Bears, where we're kind of like, yeah, it's not right. When you're 1-5, it's not your year.
Yeah.
And the Raiders were 500 going into this game. So it's kind of like they're getting kind of pulled along in a really annoying way just to, drop a game like this. To the Bears, and you got to give credit where it's due. The Bears showed up and they played a clean, better football game, and it really was on the legs of Foreman.
Yeah,
and I'm going to talk about him a little bit later, but man, I'm just really, really impressed that the Bears, kind of in a game like this with your season, I don't want to say already over, but it's not good to be 1-5, and yet this team came out and they fought, and that's what's really hard to do when you're 1-5. And I think that's a good sign from the locker room, from the coaching, from the players, because it just shows that the Bears aren't going to roll over and just accept that they're going to win one game this season. And we'll see if they can continue to build on it or not. But a great win for the Bears. Back to the drawing board for the Raiders and Josh McDaniels and all of that. And we'll see if the Raiders can kind of just end up being an 8-9 football team, something like that, or if they can be something better. Because after that game, it looks like they might be a 5-win football team if they don't get their shit together. So. Yeah. That's all I got on that game, unless you got anything else.
Nope. Justin Fields is doubtful right now for Sunday Night Football next week against the Chargers. So it might be Bagent again going on Sunday night. So we will let you guys know that on our Thursday predictions episode, which also I forgot we're going to do our Thursday Night Football predictions later today. Episode. Yeah. So, but yeah, Tyson Bagent is expected to go for the Bears next Sunday. And that's all I got.
Primetime football for the Bears. You love to see it.
Who? Bears fans? That's it?
No, I like to see it. I like to see the Bears Chargers on Sunday. It's going to be a good game, and not being sarcastic. Our next game,
appreciate it,
is man, I'm going to stop saying it. They're all weird. Okay.
Yeah.
So Cleveland wins. Okay, I think the over-under for Cleveland Indy without Deshaun Watson and Gardner Minshew, I believe it was at maybe 36.5. Both
Oh my
teams
God.
scored more than the total, right? 39-38. Cleveland gets the win. Their defense is the number one defense in the NFL. So naturally, you would just expect Cleveland to be able to win, but not in this kind of fashion where it's 38-39. So PJ Walker, 15 for 32, 178 yards, threw a pick. Deshaun Watson exited the game early after only 5 attempts. So, I mean, the Cleveland Browns get the job done. They move on to 4-2.
Yep.
It's the NFL. It's hard to get a win every single week. The Browns do it again, and now they're 4-2. What's your takeaway from this? Is this the Colts kind of playing a better game than anyone expected, or is it the Browns kind of being too soft on defense, but saving the win at the end?
Dude, this one's hard, man, because the Browns defense give up 38 points, right? You look at that and you're just like, how? But they ended up winning 39-38. How they gave up to Jonathan Taylor, to Josh Downs, right? The receiver for the Colts, who I picked up, by the way, waivers. Anybody else who has Josh Downs right now, pick him up. He might be a good either trade bait or a good flex.
He might be a what baiter?
So I don't know what to say, man. Gardner Minshew, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, 75 yards rushing and a touchdown, and had 45 yards receiving. Like, this offense was working for the Colts. The thing is, Gardner Minshew turned the ball over 4 times. I think it was like 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles and an interception, something like that. So, and there was like 1 fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Myles Garrett had a stupid good game. He had 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, a blocked kick, something like that. Like, he had an absolute monster game. So Myles Garrett for the Browns was the defense. He was one of the biggest reasons they won that night. So you got to give credit to him, because the rest of the defense was not fucking present. But Myles Garrett for sure was there. And PJ Walker, man, I talked a lot of shit about him, and yeah, I mean, he only had 178 yards, but again, he was able to come in for Watson, who seemed to struggle, who came out after an injury on like somewhat of a non-contact, sort of contact play. But he came in and he managed the game to a win somehow. Fucking Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns, Jerome Ford had a touchdown. He was able to get 57 or 55 yards on the game-winning drive, PJ Walker, to let Kareem Hunt score the winning touchdown. And that's how the Cleveland Browns ended up winning. The Colts, again, the offense was playing well. Gardner Minshew just gave up turnovers. But, Cleveland Browns, the running game, it paid off for them at the end to get the win.
Yeah, and one of the things, too, is if you're, a Colts fan like Jinja, Shane Steichen is got to be at this point kind of cemented himself as the guy to lead the Colts for the future. I mean, you look at the defense that he was going against, and we've seen this, multiple weeks where they got to go against a tough defense and they're still able to pull up, 30 plus points. That's a great sign. They might be lacking the talent to really take them over the top, but that's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? They're going to get more talented. The real, you want to have the coach. You got to make sure you have the coach. And, if you've been a fan of a bad team, it's a whole different feeling is when you have the coach, right? This is my first year being a bad team where my team has the coach. It's a totally different vibe, right? It's kind of like eventually we're going to get over this. And I think that's how the Colts should be feeling right now. And for the Browns, they got to play better under center. Their defense wasn't nearly as stout as it was through the first 6 weeks of the season. And it's going to need more help from the team's offense in order to kind of continue to to capitalize on what they did well in the beginning side. They were dominated in time of possession for most of the game, and the offense has been probably like the defense should give the game ball to the offense, because really
Oh yeah.
it was Cleveland's offense. And it's funny because it's like PJ Walker, I think he's 2-0 now when he's coming in. I believe
Yeah.
I think he hasn't lost yet. So it's really funny that it kind of reminds me of last year when Dak missed the first like 6 weeks
Uh-huh.
and the Cowboys were 5-0 when he came back. So shout out to PJ Walker. He did lead the late game winning touchdown drive. He
Yep.
threw his best pass of the year on a must-have third down to Elijah Moore. That was a really exciting game. The Browns are 4-2 now. They're definitely capable of contending for the division, but they're going to have to find a better option at backup quarterback. No
Yes.
offense to PJ Walker, if this is
Yes.
going to be long term. And the next gen stat of the game is Myles Garrett generated 4 quarterback pressures and 2 sacks, both resulting in turnovers, including a strip sack touchdown.
Yep.
Across 18 pass rushes on Sunday, all 4 pressures came in less than 2.5 seconds. Holy crap, dude. That dude is really good at football. Insane, right? So great game, by both teams, actually. Not a great defensive performance, but sometimes you got to win a game like this in the NFL. So Cleveland, they get the job done. And that's all I got for this one, unless you got something else.
No, I don't.
All right, so moving on to our next game, you got the Buffalo Bills taking an L in New England. Bill Belichick, we gave you all the stats. We gave you all the numbers about how Bill Belichick has just beaten the living dog shit out of every time Buffalo has come in. And, this game was just one of those where it felt like early in the game, you knew New England was going to, if not upset them, it was going to be a close game late in the game.
Yeah.
And Buffalo, they did some things to come back into the game, but ultimately New England, who, this is the kind of week that really just throws you for a loop, because New England has been really, really bad all season, but yet they played a really good game. And I don't really know if I should look at this like, hey, New England's correcting their mistakes and they're getting better, or is this a bad day at the office for Buffalo? I think it's a combination of both. I think Buffalo didn't play their best game, and I think New England was able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, man, this one was another tough start for the Bills. I think they had given up an interception on like their first drive, and the Patriots got off to a 10-0 lead. The Bills just started off slow. This felt like their London game against who was it? The Jaguars, right? This is exactly what it felt like. They looked pretty bad, and they picked it up in the second half, but penalties and starting off slow, and Mac Jones carving up the defense somehow. Like you don't say those words. Those words don't make sense when they come out of my mouth. Mac Jones carving up defenses. That's what happened in this game, especially towards the end on that game-winning drive, right? Like the Bills just had a tough week. I got to give credit to the Patriots on this. The Bills didn't lose this game. The Patriots won this game, and Mac Jones won this game. 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson, 34 yards rushing. Ezekiel Elliott with a touchdown and 31 yards rushing. Kendrick Bourne had a touchdown and 63 yards receiving. The defense was able to get a fumble, interceptions, like turnovers and penalties killed Buffalo. But at the end of the day, New England takes advantage of that, and any team can, and they win that game. This is exactly what they're supposed to do. I had mentioned it on our predictions episode. Like this can turn into Bill Belichick and the Patriots beating the Bills just like they have been for like 2 decades. I didn't believe it when I said it, and now I have to fucking be like, oh no, I totally meant it when I said it.
Yeah. No, of course.
I meant that.
Yeah, the Bills once again have a slow start. Now, they did have a really fast start when they played Miami. I think
Yeah.
they put up 40 points in that game.
Yeah.
But ever since that game, that was week 4, right? We're in week 7 now. The offense has stalled early in almost every single game.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that this Buffalo team can get it going. And, this Bills team really just reminds me of the Packers with Brett Favre. It's like
Oh.
every year, that there's a chance that they can go to the Super Bowl. But,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it kind of rests on the bad decisions that the gunslinger Brett Favre, in this case, Josh Allen, the risks that he's going to take.
Yeah.
I still think I do think Josh Allen will get himself a Super Bowl. It's hard to tell if this is the year or not. They're going to have to start playing. I mean, because after week 4, when they beat the Dolphins, we were like, this Buffalo team is really good when they want
Yeah.
to be,
Yeah.
But man, it just seems like, look, I'm really going to chalk this up to the NFL this whole week is just literally, the NFL is really hard to win. And that
Yeah.
is what the takeaway should be. It's really easy to be like, Buffalo, all these teams suck. No, that's not the case, man. Every
Mm-hmm.
team is just capable of beating anybody on any given Sunday. And this week, we happen to see a lot of underdogs actually get dubs. For Bill Belichick, that was his 300th victory,
Let's
which is
go.
now going to be a classic, right? Because it's going to be in
Mm-hmm.
documentaries and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it was a much needed win for the Patriots. The negativity, the black cloud of negativity that was following New England, week to week, feels like it's been all season. It's been, the better half of a month now, but that I think this kind of a win just kind of makes that all go away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a whole other, more than half of the NFL season left. So, we will have to keep an eye on, these teams that are kind of, trending up, and the ones trending down. We'll see how it rolls over into next week, but a much needed win. New England gets the job done at home.
Yep.
And yeah, hats off to New England and Bill Belichick getting their guys ready to play a physical game against a physical team. And yeah, that's all I got for that one.
Yeah, one more thing on the Bills, man. We talked earlier about them and how well they were doing, like you had mentioned earlier. And we were saying, like, oh man, the Bills are playing really well. And it's almost like the pressure of them going to the Super Bowl is off, right? Like it was off this year, like not like last year where we were like, Josh Allen and the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen's getting the MVP of the Super Bowl. Like that was set in stone in our minds. This year, not too much talk. We really were focusing on like other teams, the Dolphins, the Eagles, the 49ers. Like it was like those were the biggest hype teams, right? And so the Bills came into it with less pressure than last year. And it seemed to me and us really, and I think the entire NFL, like, oh, okay, the pressure's off. Now they're playing a little more free. This loss against the Patriots, man, it just looks bad. They must have heard what we were saying, and they're like, oh shit, we got to play better. And then they just started sucking again. I don't know, man. It was a
I've
rough
seen them in the
start.
chat. The Bills have been tuning in. I know last week they were in the chat.
The Bills were in the chat last one. You're right. You're right.
That guy we have that's Mile High.
Yeah.
When he first came in, I was doing Tim Patrick tore his Achilles in practice. So I went live right away. He hopped in. I thought it was the Denver Broncos, dude.
Oh, that would have been sweet.
I literally went and told Aaron, I'm like, the Denver Broncos came in. And then I found out like 3 weeks later that wasn't the Broncos. Live, by the way, on air when he was like, I've been in here before. I'm like, oh, you're not the Broncos. But we still love having you in here, Mile High.
Absolutely, we do.
Our next game is one that we both predicted, right? I was willing to take my bet that New York had turned a corner, at least when it comes to their defense. They came up short against Buffalo a week ago. I was willing to buy in that is real progress from the Giants. and they were able to get a win, holding the Commanders to only 7 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, since the Dolphins literally thrashed the Giants week 5, you've seen this Giants team come out and play a lot better. Deontay Banks had a first half interception, which started a first half drive that led to a Saquon Barkley touchdown. By the way, the Giants much better with Saquon Barkley. We talk about that a lot, but it's so true. And Kayvon Thibodeau also dropped a gift-wrapped INT deep in Washington territory. So the Giants are lucky that didn't come back to bite them. But this was the fourth game of the season that New York allowed fewer than 300 yards. This group has played hard all season, even through all the struggles. They're coached really well. He's got double the size of a real man's balls, and it shows this season. What do you think about the Giants getting a dub against this Commanders team?
I think Tyrod Taylor might be better than fucking Daniel Jones, dude. It's getting rough. He had a great game. He had an amazing second quarter.
Scored
2 touchdowns. Yeah, 2 touchdown passes in the second quarter. The first time the Giants this year have scored a first half offensive touchdown, and they said, you know what? We scored 1. Let's give the Giants fans another one. They scored 2.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's give it to them. They've been waiting for a while. Let's give them 2. And then they never scored again after with 8 minutes left in the second quarter. They're like, yeah, that's enough. I think we got it. But luckily for them, they didn't need to score more points because Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau were making life absolute fucking hell for Sam Howell. Sam Howell was sacked 6 times, and that was more than double that the Giants had coming into this game the entire season. They sacked him more times than they had sacks the entire first 6 weeks of the NFL. So credit to not only the offense and Tyrod Taylor of the Giants, but the defense, man. The defense really dominated this game, and that's exactly what they needed, because if the offense could have only scored 14 points and the defense wasn't dominating, the Washington Commanders with, Terry McLaurin getting, I think, over 100 yards or close to 100 yards receiving, they probably would have been able to at least, tie it, if not win it by at least 3 towards the end of the game. So got to give a lot of credit to this defense. They really fucking made this game hell for the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders, Sam Howell, it's tough to be the quarterback in a loss like this, because you're just there really wasn't much I could do. I kept getting sacked. I threw for almost 250 yards. We threw the ball 42 times. I have Terry McLaurin. I have Logan Thomas. I have Jahan Dotson. I have Curtis Samuel. I have Brian Robinson. And yet nothing could be done on the offense. They scored 7, which was the best they could do. They had a guy named Chris Rodriguez Jr. rushing the ball. They were just trying new things to make it work, and they just couldn't. The offense could not get going. The defense held the team to 14 points, which they haven't really been able to do these last few weeks. So credit to them. They tried, but the offense could just not get anything going this week.
Yeah, and Tyrod Taylor, you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a good game. He threw for 279, which is his most since week 1 of 2021. When he threw for 291 yards against
wow.
Oh, he was playing for the Texans, and that was against the Jaguars, actually.
Wow.
And his 116.9 passer rating was his highest in a start since week 2 of the 2001 campaign versus Cleveland. So, yes, Tyrod Taylor had a good game, and that is all a fact. And one of the reasons Tyrod Taylor, I don't want to say, I'll just say this. He found a way to get Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt both involved into this game. Early in the game, Taylor hit Hyatt for a 33-yard connection on their 3rd offensive play of the game. So the Giants got going early. Then he hit him on a Hyatt again on a 42-yarder in the 4th quarter. 33-yard, 42-yard. This is why you got Hyatt, one of the fastest players in the draft. He's supposed to take the top off the safety. He's supposed to be your deep threat. And Darren Waller finally getting incorporated into this offense, but it seems like more effectively than when Daniel Jones was the quarterback. So I mean, Waller caught 7 passes on 8 targets. He almost had 100 yards
Let's
receiving,
go.
and he
Let's
got his
go.
first touchdown as a Giant in week 7. This is kind
Yeah.
of, if you're the Giants, this is what you're looking at. You're like, okay,
Mhm.
what is it that Tyrod Taylor did that we can try, to look at the film and incorporate some of this when we get Daniel Jones back? Because, I mean, you look around the league, man, it doesn't matter if you're talking about the Commanders with all those weapons that you named when we started this segment, or
Mhm.
the Giants. There's a lot of stacked rosters that are just not winning. Denver,
Yeah.
they have a stacked roster. I
Yeah.
refuse to believe that those guys are all washed. I do think that there's a lot of talent that it's like a shame that certain teams aren't better. And I think the Giants kind of went into this season with the expectations that they could, compete in the NFC. I don't know for a championship, but they went to the playoffs last year. They won a playoff game, and their team
Yep.
got a lot better on the roster. They need to figure out when they get Daniel Jones back how to, kind of keep this rolling, because right now it's good vibes
Yeah.
for the Giants. If it's too little, too late, we'll find out. But you got to be feeling good the last 2 weeks if you're a Giants fan.
100%, man. Who knows how long? I'm not sure how long Danny Dimes is out, and Tyrod Taylor seems to be doing something right. I don't know if it's Tyrod Taylor himself or Dable, but whatever it is, they got to keep doing what they're doing.
I was going to say too, Tyrod Taylor's not like he was a great.
Yeah.
He was a really good quarterback, and then he just got injured. I think he went to the Chargers, and he had something with his neck or his rib or something broke. And then, he found his way to, but you see this all the time. Teddy Bridgewater is a great example. Somebody that took his team to, I think, an NFC championship game.
Yeah.
And then in the next season had a non-contact knee blow up. And I mean, this is just really, really one of those quarterbacks that it may be his Geno Smith time, if that makes sense.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. Like, there's a lot of talented quarterbacks that, it's not that they didn't bloom earlier in their career. It's that their injuries didn't allow them to stay consistent.
Yeah.
And, if he can keep rolling, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to believe that, he can't get better. 4 hours ago, Sports Illustrated released Daniel Jones still working through injury rehab. He's missed 2 games now. And let's try to see if there's anything. He isn't cleared for contact by Thursday as to the latest of where he can take full reps in practice. It's hard to imagine he would be good to play on Sunday on limited practice snaps, although Dabble said that he wouldn't have any hesitation putting Jones out there, as Jones knows the system. So we'll keep you up to date with that. Sounds like right now the Giants aren't really maybe in a hurry to put Daniel Jones back in, but I would have a hard time believing Tyrod's going to be the quarterback for more than one more week. So moving on from that game, which was a fun one, and I'm sure when Bill comes back from cooking dinner, he'll love that segment that we had, and I'm interested.
Oh, yeah.
So Bill, put your comments in. What does it feel like to be a Giants fan when you watch this later? Our next game, Atlanta Falcons in Tampa Bay. We talked about this game after Thursday night when the Saints lost. We said that this game was going to be important. I think you took Tampa. I think I took Atlanta. I really wanted to pick Tampa because they're, they have that defense, but at the end of the day, I didn't trust any of these teams. Atlanta's able to get a 3-point win. What's your takeaway here?
Kyle, let me ask you a question. If you are a team who gets in the red zone 3 times and fumbles all 3 times, do you think that team would have won? Do you think that team wins?
If they fumble it all 3 times?
All 3 times.
No, that team loses.
Well, let me tell you, the Falcons won that game because Desmond Ridder fumbled 3 times inside not only the red zone, but inside the 15-yard line 2 times at the 1-yard line. And they still came out with a dub. Now, look, the defense for the Atlanta Falcons did a really good job. And Desmond Ridder, for all of his mistakes this game, Not a bad game. 250 yards on 25 pass attempts and 19 completions. Desmond Ridder even rushed for a touchdown. Like, he did well, except for those fucking turnovers that probably could have put this game away much earlier. Credit to the defense, though. They kept Tampa at bay. And they were able to get some turnovers on their own. Kyler didn't catch that joke, but okay.
Oh, sorry. Do it again.
I said, you got to give credit to the Falcons. I can't believe I'm doing this again. You got to give credit to the Falcons defense because they kept Tampa at bay. And they had
that was good.
Had some turnovers.
It was so good that I didn't even realize it was a joke.
They had some turnovers of their own, especially that one late in the game when Baker Mayfield was trying to go get the dub, as we saw him last year on Thursday Night Football. Interception there to end the game, and that was basically it for the Falcons. Great defensive game. Offense had a ton of mistakes, especially at the quarterback's end, but Atlanta came out with a dub. They kicked the field goals when they, I feel like these teams kick field goals instead of like when compared to Detroit when they're trying to go for it, because they know they need these 3 points more than anything in the world right now. Yeah. Detroit could be like, you know what? Let's fucking go for it. We got a good offense. Atlanta and Tampa Bay know that they have a shit offense and they need those field goals. So their kickers are most valuable players right now on their teams. But
yeah,
Atlanta
they kick it on first down. Once they get in the red zone, they're like, hey, we're probably going to fumble it again. Let's just send the field goal.
If I was fucking Arthur Smith there with the Falcons, that's 9 points I could have had. Like, come on, right? Like, so the offenses did enough, but the Falcons were just a little bit better. Their defense a little bit better. But the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, I mean, not bad.
NFC South remains wide open, right? So right now, it's not like any team pulls away. And it's not often that we see two teams play so similar in every aspect of the game for 4 entire quarters. But that's what happened on Sunday. There were nearly even on first downs, third down conversion rate, total plays, penalties, punts, and time of possessions. It couldn't be a more evenly matched contest, which predictably came down to the final possession. So I do think moving forward for Tampa, they're kind of getting the full spectrum Baker Mayfield experience. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Tampa could have won this game, but you could also say that, Atlanta could have put up 20 more points if they hadn't fumbled the ball. At the end of the day, I didn't learn anything new about anybody. This is how I thought the game would go. And it could have gone the other way, and it, wouldn't have shocked me either. So we'll see what happens in the next week, see if one team's able to pull away. But right now, the NFC South stays close and competitive. Our next game was another close and competitive game. This was my don't touch it of the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming into Los Angeles. That is a far plane ride, folks. That is not a close travel.
Nope.
Close travel mark.
Close travel thing.
You got it. So the Rams aren't able to get the job done. I was leaning towards the Rams because when you look at the Rams, it was like offensively you trust them much more. Yep. But then you saw all those stats kind of coming in about how Matthew Stafford is like one of the worst quarterbacks against the blitz. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh has the highest blitz percentage in the NFL. It seemed like a combo for something bad to happen, and it did. Pittsburgh gets the win. What do you think about this game, and is Pittsburgh on their way to giving Mike Tomlin another winning season?
At 4-2, man, it really looks like it for Pittsburgh. Like, it really does look like it's about to be another, dare I say, 10-win season for the Steelers, and yet they'll miss the playoffs because they got the Ravens and the Browns and even hopefully the Bengals ahead of them. But it might be a 10-7 season for the Steelers because they're finding ways to win, man. And going into this in our predictions episode, I was like, this offense stinks. Matt Canada stinks. The defense is the only thing holding them like up. And yet what do?
Deontay Johnson
makes his return and doesn't get like gingerly set in for a couple of plays. No, he gets 5 receptions for 79 yards. George Pickens had 107 yards. Kenny Pickett threw for 230. Really was the running game between Kenny Pickett, Warren, and Harris, who got all the touchdowns. But still, man, like they were able to get a competent offense out there. And Matt Canada actually looked happy for once in that booth up there calling the plays. The Rams, they should have had 23 points. Brett Maher missed 2 field goals. He was 1 for 3 on the day. They could have had more points. That could have affected the game differently. Who knows? We're probably talking a Rams win. Who knows exactly how this game goes. But Pittsburgh was able to hold, LA on their last drive, I believe, forced them into a 3 and out. And that's kind of how Pittsburgh won it there. Got a Najee Harris touchdown there after 4 solid completions by Kenny Pickett. They were able to win. The Rams just looked rough, guys. And Matthew Stafford, always the player that he is, 231 yards, a touchdown, but that interception was costly. Puka Nacua, 154 yards, and even Tutu Atwell with a touchdown. Like, not a huge Cooper Kupp game, and you got to give credit to the defense again for Pittsburgh for keeping Cooper Kupp at bay and not really letting him explode. But you still got Puka Nacua with 154 yards. Maybe they were like, you know what? Let's let the rookie go off, and let's let Cooper Kupp, the seasoned vet, Super Bowl winner, let's keep him with some low receptions, some low yards, and it turned out to be a win for the Steelers, man.
Yeah, dude. And you mentioned Mayer going 1 for 3. Now that might not seem like a huge deal, but remember, Brett Maher's issues might be back. Remember his sudden inability to make extra points in the Dallas game? Yep. Well, he rediscovered his abilities. That is until Sunday. And that was where he missed the 53-yarder, but then he missed the extra point. And then he missed another field goal that never actually had a legitimate chance at. That was a 51-yard field goal. So I don't know what's going on, but this is a huge deal. That's a total of 7 points off the board, which is the difference in this football game. This game would have been in overtime had those field goals and extra points gone through. Really, I mean, if you have to point to one thing, that's the difference to me in this football game.
Yes.
And you just can't stress the importance of having a kicker that, as soon as he runs out on the field, it's good. You already know it's good, or it's good 80% of the time. You don't feel like that if you're a Rams fan right now. They're going to have to figure it out. This Brett Maher, he actually was on our practice squad kicking for us in the preseason. And I was like, I don't want this guy, dude. He not just because he was missing all those extra points, but he was missing, I think he went 2 for 3. And it was still like, no, dude, I mean, I just didn't trust it. And then eventually we ended up getting Will Lutz. So yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh though, they're 4-2. When you said that, it freaked me out, man, because I was like, there's no way that the Steelers are 4-2. And somehow here we are, the Steelers are 4-2. And the Rams, I mean, the Rams had, it seemed like, an opportunity to kind of like, because we talked about how fast the Rams were able to kind of just get back to the drawing board and redefine who they're going to be as a team. Yeah. And it was like, hey, maybe they're not going to go through this whole 3-year rebuild because it looked like they were being competitive this year. There's still plenty of time. They're 1 game under 500. But for the Steelers, man, it seems like the season with Matt Canada and all that stuff, it seems like the Steelers have, I don't want to say been written off, but they're probably, most people would agree, the worst 4-2 team in the NFL. Yeah. The question is, can they get ready on the way? And, I say that a lot. This is a perfect team that looks like they appear from the outside that they're getting ready on the way, meaning improving every single week. And we'll see what they can actually become. A lot of people still believe in Kenny Pickett the way people in New England believed in Mac Jones. And when you're 4-2, you're not in any real threat of being replaced. So the Steelers continue to win. The next gen stat of the game is that Deontay Johnson caught 5 passes for 79 yards on 6 targets, posting his highest receiving yards over expected total, plus 23 of
Wow.
his time spent playing with Kenny Pickett, in the second highest mark of his career. And I do want to shout out TJ Watt because he joined Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor as the only player since 1982 when individual sacks were first tracked, with 70 plus sacks and 7 plus interceptions over their first 7 seasons.
Wow.
And I didn't even know TJ Watt's been in the league for 7 seasons.
Me neither.
I'm like, he's been in for almost a decade. I thought he's like in year 4. What the fuck?
I was going to say year 4. I thought it was year 4 as well. Jesus Christ. And man, we do wonder why the Steelers are at 4-2, but we look at that offense and we're like, we really do wonder how they're at 4-2.
Right. No, and I was telling my dad today, I was like, yeah, Nick Bosa, I said, I thought was the best defense player in the game. And he said TJ Watt, which isn't a bad pick by any means. And after that stat, he may be right. But that's all I got for this game, unless you got anything else.
No, I got nothing else. Let's move on.
All right, so moving into Seattle, they get the 10-point win at home against Arizona. The Cardinals, they haven't really been able to get anything. They started the season great, and then these last 3 weeks have just been them stacking L's. I expected Seattle to win this game. It still didn't look like it was 10-20. I think Seattle maybe could have beaten them, or is it like the Cardinals played really tough? What's your takeaway from the Seahawks getting a win at what is it, Loomis Field?
Lumen
Field.
Yeah. This was all on the Seattle Seahawks defense, which is easily becoming one of the best defenses in the NFL. They held the Cardinals to 88 yards in the second half and 0 points. When you do that, you're gonna win fucking games, man. I think they got to Joshua Dobbs a few times. Like I'm looking at the stats here. Let me see how many times they got. They got to him 4 times. 4 total sacks on Josh Dobbs. And look, by no means is Joshua Dobbs and the Cardinals are they good. They looked good even at 1-3. We were like, oh man, this Cardinals team looks pretty hard. They look like a tough out. And then you get to losses 4, 5, and 6, and you're like, never mind. This team is nothing but dog shit. That's what this team is. That's what this team is just dog shit, man. On the Seahawks offensively, Geno Smith didn't have a great game. 2 touchdowns, interceptions, 219 yards. Kenneth Walker really kind of got them where they needed to go with 105 yards rushing. Jackson Smith and Jigba got his first touchdown. A guy named Jake Bobo got a touchdown. Like this week only got weirder, right? But this really was a Seattle Seahawks team that's 4-2 thanks to their defense. That's 100% what this was. Their defense really killed it this game. And yeah, they only scored 20 points, but maybe that Cardinals defense is actually pretty decent. And Geno Smith maybe had a bad day. I don't know which one of the two you want to believe, but one of those two happened for sure. But the Seahawks get it up, man. 4-2. They're looking like a playoff team.
Yeah, and you do got to credit Arizona for continuing to battle. They did turn 3 Seattle turnovers into just 3 points. So
yeah,
if maybe the Cardinals were more efficient offensively, they could have actually won this game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if it's Geno Smith having a bad game. DK Metcalf inactive is a big deal, but he had to lean on his rookie. Jake Bobo's a rookie. Mm-hmm. JSN's a rookie. JSN opened the scoring with a nice route for a 28-yard strike, and he won over the middle often. I think he 63 yards on 4 grabs, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what you said. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, Seattle did what they had to do, but this game wasn't pretty by any means. And you got to credit Seattle's defense for picking up the offense. You mentioned that as well. Mm-hmm. But the defense made key stops when it was needed. After a fumble on a first-quarter punt return, the Seahawks held Arizona to 4 yards and a field goal. Later, after a botched snap on offense, gave the Cardinals another shot with a short field. The defense bowed up, leading to a missed Arizona field goal. There was multiple opportunities for Arizona to at least get a field goal, and it was Seattle's defense that stepped up. And by the way, Devin Witherspoon is really good.
He's a monster.
He's a monster. He's already Surtain, Sauce Gardner, Devin Witherspoon. I mean, these guys are coming out so polished and so good. I mean, you could see why you had to draft him at number 5 overall to be able to get him. But not an unknown person by any means at this point. I think everybody knows who he is. Geno Smith picked up 129 of his 219 passing yards on attempts over 20 air yards. He was 5 for 6 on attempts over 20 yards for 129 yards. So, I mean, at least they're able to get the ball downfield. Like, we know what it's like when you have a stagnant offense and the ball's getting, Russell Wilson was 20 for 22, but he only threw for 79 yards. Fuck that. I don't care about his 2 to 3 yard completions. Like, this shows that Seattle, if Geno Smith, even if he did have a bad game, he was still able to get the football downfield behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties, consistently throughout the game. It's the NFL. The Seahawks get the win at home, but work to be done on both teams. And that's the last thing I got for that game.
Yeah, I wish, I bet Seattle wishes that they weren't in the same division as the 49ers, which we'll get into a little bit later, because they would probably be leading a lot of divisions right now with the 4-2 record.
Yeah. I can't even believe that they have a 4-2 record,
right?
Because it doesn't feel like they're dominating.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. They're just winning.
But you know what? They're tied with the 49ers now, and we will talk about that later.
Yep.
But our next game, ladies and gentlemen, our next game.
Let's go, Broncos.
The Denver Broncos taking on the Green Bay Packers. I got to watch this game. The first thing I want to say about this game, were you able to watch it?
Yes, I was, and I loved every second of it. Even though the Broncos had trouble scoring in the red zone, this is all I'm going to say. They had trouble scoring in the red zone, but I'm so happy you guys beat the Packers, because the Packers, now 3 straight losses, look like they're going nowhere, and I love it. So, Kyle, the floor is to you. Broncos win, baby.
So the Broncos, man, I was kind of scared to say this, but after the Chiefs game, I was like, I think their defense turned the corner. And it was kind of a similar feeling with the Giants against Buffalo, right? You're playing a top team, you hold them to, a few points, and then you're hoping it can roll over to next week. The Green Bay Packers, man, I'm telling you, I haven't seen the Broncos hit people like they were hitting at this game. The tackles, the open field tackles, this defense came out hungry, ready to play. They had great energy. Travis Scott was in the building. I don't know if that had something to do with it. He was wearing Super Bowl rings in his booth. Maybe he came down and did a pep talk with the team, something like that. It was absolutely insane. The Packers weren't able to overcome their slow start. Entering week 7, the Broncos defense was allowing the most points in yards per game in the NFL. But Jordan Love, they were supposed to have a good game. A lot of people believed, hey, Jordan Love, he can definitely come out here and have, a bounce back, a get well game against the Denver Broncos. But it wasn't able to really get going ever. Their best drive of the first and second quarters went for 52 yards and ended with missed 43-yard field goals. Green Bay rallied. They briefly took the lead in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't enough. The Packers down 19-7 with less than 2 minutes left. Love throws a deep pass to Samori Toure, and it was picked off by PJ Locke, who was only in the game because of Kareem Jackson being ejected for a hit. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Russell Wilson, Courtland Sutton connection looked really strong for the first time this season. Wilson went to his go-to receiver early and often. He connected with Sutton for 33 yards on the third play of the contest, went back to him twice. Courtland Sutton looked like he was back and involved in the offense. I do think that this is a little bit of like people saying, hey, Russell Wilson's 5'10", Drew Brees was 5'10" or 5'11", but what the thing is it doesn't matter because there's totally different quarterbacks. I think Sean Payton maybe was trying to incorporate some of his New Orleans offense into this. And I think everybody's learning, okay, maybe we need to do this. Maybe we need to do that. Because I think what Denver found is their formula for victory. Now, look, this isn't going to jump off the page at you when you look at the box scores. It wasn't like, wow, Denver went out there and kicked ass. But when you look at the game as a whole, if you watch the football game, Denver was doing what they needed to do to get the win, and it was because their defense really stood up. But let's talk about the offense. Russell Wilson, 20 for 29, 194 yards, 1 touchdown. That's not bad. That's not great.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like, the point is that I don't know if we even need Russell Wilson to be great in order to win football games, because Javonte Williams, 15 carries, 82 yards, averaging over 5 yards per carry. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, who, I've been really high on, average 9 yards per carry, 5 carries for 45 yards. And then Russell Wilson had 1 scramble for 21 yards. And then don't forget Samaje Perine, because he's really talented, but with Jaleel McLaughlin kind of making a splash, he's limited in his opportunities. He had 2 carries, averaged 5 yards per carry, went for 10 total. Courtland Sutton, 6 catches, Jerry Jeudy, 5 catches. When you look at this, it's like we might have something here that we can be like, hey, this is kind of like our formula of victory. What I love is that Denver didn't abandon the running game. We've seen so many times the Broncos, as soon as they get down, they abandon the running game. And I love that they stuck with it, because now you look back at the end of the game and it's like, okay, we have 2 running backs averaging, over 5 yards per carry. And that's really what helped Denver win this game. And that's what opened up Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I just felt like it was very efficient. The Broncos were able to move every time they touched the ball. Rarely, I think they had 2 3-and-outs in the whole game.
Yeah.
And this was just a really great football game. Like, if you just love football, they were able to move the ball. The defenses were both hitting. And it came down to the end. But I never had a doubt in my mind that Denver wasn't going to win this game after I saw how the defense was playing. And if that defense has really turned a corner, if Vance Joseph, his system, I don't know if it took if it took some weeks, but the defense is definitely better. And if the defense could get as good as they were last year.
Don't believe in Vance.
If the defense can get as good as they were last year, well, now all of a sudden you don't have to worry, because Denver's not scoring 16 points a game. We have Sean Payton. We're scoring 19 to 20.
Yeah.
That is the difference, in being, 4-2 and 2-5. You can't expect to win games when you are the worst defense in the NFL in points and yards. It seems like they're cleaning up on defense, and they're giving themselves an opportunity to win football games. I don't know if this is something they can build. We got the Chiefs coming, right? And then we got Buffalo. But I'll tell you this, if Denver beats the Chiefs in Buffalo, if they can win those 2 games, they're 1 game outside of 500. And guess what? You believe at that point you could beat anybody in the NFL if you go on a winning streak like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to get my hopes up, even though it seems like I already just did.
You 100% did. And you know how I know? Because you said Vance Joseph's defense improved. That's how I know your hopes are up. That's how I know that.
Let me have this one.
Real quick before I say my last piece, I want to say cheers to Bill. Bill's back. Bill, you missed the Giants. You missed the Giants talk. You got to rewind, watch the video we post, and then you got to watch the Giants stuff. Look, I'm glad that the Broncos got their second win on the same day the Bears got their second win. I love that you guys beat the Packers. I remember asking you, like, are you going to root for the Broncos or the Packers? And as soon as I ended that question, I was like, that was a stupid question because you were like, the Broncos. No, man, you guys made that defense was able to get that last within 2 minutes, get that interception off Jordan Love. So great job, great clutch performance by that defense too. And Jordan Love and the Packers, man, looking a little rough. The run game still pretty good, but Jordan Love throwing the deep ball, man, kind of tough to see. Kind of really tough to see. You like to see that though from like a rookie. And yes, he hasn't gotten that many starts in his third or fourth year, whatever it is. But man, you kind of look at that as a third year quarterback, and you're like, you have to make that throw. So a little tough to be a Packers fan right now, which to me is great.
Yeah, the Packers with Jordan Love is going to be kind of interesting because even when he came in last year in the Philly game, it was really good. He threw 6 touchdown passes in his first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are, 3 games slide. Adversity, how does Jordan Love respond to it? And it's something we don't have the answers to. The story's still being written. But it'll be interesting to see because obviously this is a transition period for the Packers. Mm-hmm. They're not used to being in this situation. But Jordan Love, is he going to be the answer long term? I think it's way too early to say. Like if you're trying to figure out who your replacement is, you can't just see 3 bad games, in my opinion, and be like, oh, that's, I think you saw enough in the first 2 weeks to allow, hey, there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be learning experiences. The last throw that sealed the game, that was a bad throw. That was a bad interception. And that's really what killed the game. Jordan Love literally lost the game for the Packers by throwing that ball. That's good. Let's see what he does moving forward from here. And the next gen stat of the game, Denver ended its 10-game losing streak when leading at halftime. And they asked Sean Payton about this.
Wow.
They asked him about it after the game, and he shut the reporter down. He didn't even let him finish his sentence. And he was like, that's not our team. You're talking about the last 10 times leading at halftime that we are a totally different team. I'm the head coach of these Broncos, and I don't want to hear any of the bullshit from the past coming into our press box. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I love that because it's true. It's like, hey, don't come at me with some negative shit from the last 3 years. Like, I just got here. Mm-hmm. And I like it. Denver is trying to create new history, new patterns, and the Chiefs winning 16 games in a row against us will be the next challenge that I hope Sean Payton can put an end to. That'll happen on Sunday.
For sure.
All right, so our next game, we're going to stay in the AFC West. We got the Chargers playing the Chiefs. This game was really entertaining. Early in the game, the Chiefs are able to, I think they might have shut out the Chargers in the second half. They did. Okay. Yeah. Because I was watching the Broncos game, obviously, but I was seeing the update on the score. In the first half, it was like, this is the game I thought we were going to get, that back and forth. I liked the Chargers to cover the 5.5 point spread. They didn't. They end up losing by 2 possessions. What's your takeaway on this one? I'll let you go first, and then I'll go because, I keep track of the AFC West like you do the North, NFC North. So let me get your takeaway about this game because the Chargers are supposed to be more competitive. It looks like Herbert's struggling. What do you think?
I loved this game in the first half, man, but the defense for the Chiefs, which we have been singing the praises of over the last 2-3 weeks, shut them down. They absolutely shut them down. I think they got 2 interceptions in the second half. They held them to 3 punts, 0 points. Like this defense, when it comes down to it, is just so damn good. And it's becoming one of those defenses, maybe not like the Browns necessarily, but it's getting there as far as dominant and being able to shut teams down when they need to. And they were able to do that for the Chargers because the first half they gave up 17 points. And, people outside of LA and Kansas City wanted a shootout because Herbert and Mahomes. But Mahomes, man, Mahomes and Kelsey. Let's just talk about them for a bit. 12 catches, 179 yards, 1 touchdown for Kelsey. Mahomes completed 32 passes, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had an interception, but those 3 stats before that tell the story. Mahomes is doing this midseason form thing he does every single year, where we talk about the offense and how it hasn't looked great, and then he goes for 400 plus yards, and we're like, oh yeah, this is the Mahomes we know and kind of love. Kyle, not so much, but this is the Mahomes we know and love, right? They're doing it, man. And Travis Kelce is not fucking fair. Not fucking fair. We talk about how their receivers.
He got that anytime touchdown. That
yes,
won
he
me
did. Yeah.
$250.
Yes, he did. Hey, at least Kyle got some money out of that. But we talk about how there's a lack of receivers in Kansas City. And we just seem to overlook Travis Kelce in the sense that he's not really a wide receiver. He's a tight end. But my God, he is a number one. Anywhere you put him, he's a number one. Like, good thing he's with Mahomes when Mahomes came in, because it's just this duo was just amazing together. As the Chargers defense, like the Chargers have a good defense. I think they're able to do things well. Yes, they've lost 2 weeks in a row, right? The Cowboys last week, also in prime time. But this offense, man, with Herbert, it's starting to look a little rough, especially on Herbert, especially on the quarterback. I don't know if Staley's doing that bad of a coaching job anymore. I really do think it's coming down to Herbert having those Josh Allen moments where he tries to do a little too much and then ends up getting intercepted. So that might be the issue here, honestly. If you want my honest opinion, it might be the quarterback in Herbert, and we've praised Herbert for years now.
No, I'm not letting you do this.
It might be him. He's overthrowing receivers. So, like, this is what he's supposed to do. How good he's been.
Rick, we're not
the
going
Chargers
there.
have not been able to do shit in the playoffs, especially. What do we say? The Chargers are going to charge her. And what's a big reason? The head coach and I think the quarterback now. There's nowhere else to blame. There's nowhere else to put the blame.
The coach, the head coach that they won't hire.
I said the coach and the quarterback.
Okay, Justin Herbert's still a quarterback that like you would want him on your team. Like,
oh,
right
100%. Don't get me wrong. I would 100% want Justin Herbert on my team, but I still think he's one of the main issues right now.
Justin Fields for Justin Herbert right now.
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
You're switching?
Yes.
I don't know. But it's a great conversation worth having. McCole Hardman, before the trade deadline, did come back into this game, and I think this is not Odell Beckham Jr., DeAndre Hopkins, but it doesn't matter because they're a team that they were winning their games, but they were kind of stale offensively. And look at them, man, deciding, hey, why don't we just bring one more weapon back and let's try to capitalize on our defense.
Yeah.
So what was McCole Hardman's impact on his first game back? Well, he only caught one pass. What do you say, Rick? You're talking about the co-founder of the Sheldon High School Fishing Club here. That's awesome. So the one catch though that he had, I think he had one catch for 6 yards.
Yeah.
But he had a 50-yard punt return that kick-started the drive. So you see kind of that impact immediately. Ladarius Sneed intercepted the ball on 3rd and goal. That was a huge play for the Chiefs. I'm going to say it again. This defense is the best Mahomes has ever had, which is crazy to say that, because I really do believe defense wins championships. I think offense gets you to championships, but the defense ultimately wins them for you. And this is going to be a Chiefs team that I'm not going to give away my top 5, but they got to move up. They have to move up. They 100%. Have to move up.
100%.
And the next gen stat of the game, Patrick Mahomes' 46-yard touchdown pass to Marquez Valdez-Scantling was Mahomes' first deep touchdown pass of the season. and only his second
Wow.
since the start of last season.
Wow.
So Mahomes threw 44 touchdown passes of 20 or more air yards between 2018 and 2021. That was the second most for any quarterback during that span. But since 2022 to now, he's only had 2 touchdown passes
That's insane.
of that distance. So Mahomes able to maybe start getting the deep ball going again. It does seem like the Chiefs, man, when you win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl every year, it might just be this is the way it's going to be. It's going to be in the middle, late October when the Chiefs start really rolling. And, with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they've connected on 29 straight targets, by the way, spanning in 3 games before an incompletion midway through the fourth quarter ended the streak. But man, when you have a connection where 29 straight targets are received, there's no reason to believe that this Chiefs team can't win the Super Bowl this year. And I think if that happens, we can just put to bed all of the Tom Brady stuff. Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's been the greatest quarterback for a couple years, and this just may be the nail in the coffin if this Chiefs team can win it again. So I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it.
You came at me for the Herbert shit, and this is what you're gonna top it off with? How dare you?
I thought for a second you were saying that Justin Herbert, they may want to try other options at quarterback. I thought you were gonna say like something like that, and that's when I was like, no, shut it down.
Yeah,
that's not it. But if you're just saying like he hasn't been playing well, I can get where you're coming from with that, and I agree. But man, I do think this Chargers team is better than they are playing, and it's got to be really frustrating to be a Chargers fan this season so far. And for the Chiefs, man, it's just another week of rolling. Hopefully next week they got to come into the Mile High City. And hopefully Denver can hand him fucking L, and we can just move on with our life.
So, for your sake, Kyle, I really do hope so.
Because if they don't, Rick, that means I have to wait another year to have an opportunity to get this streak away. Another year. Think about how much happens in a year. Birthdays, Christmas, holidays. I got to watch the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I want to at least be like, we beat that team. So I'm going to feel that way. You'll probably hear me talk about this game a lot this week. It's really important to me. So that's all I got for the AFC West game. Then we can move on to Sunday Night Football unless you got anything else.
No, I'm good. But I do like this idea from Bill. New segment, Spicy Takes with Star 6. I love it.
Ooh,
I love it.
I like it. Yeah, we'll incorporate it immediately. Absolutely. My spicy take is going to come at the Miami-Philadelphia game. You ready for my spicy take?
Let's do it.
Miami is not that good.
Shut the fuck up, Kyle. Miami played like dog shit.
They didn't, though. And that's really what I want to say. Miami didn't play like dog shit, but they were just outmatched, outhandled, outstrength. And Philly just had one of those games where they quietly told the whole league to STFU, right? We are still the Philadelphia Eagles, the most talented roster in the NFL. And yeah, I get it. Miami has track stars, literally, like world star famous. Not world star, but
world star.
My uncle only gets his news off World Star. That's it. Like he's that's a whole nother thing. But I just think this Eagles team is really good. And for Miami, this was our measuring stick game. We can't take it back now because we said, okay, Miami has only played Buffalo. They got their ass whooped. Every other team has won 1 or only 2 games. Okay, so if Miami's not playing right, they're inflated, and this is kind of an opportunity for Miami to be like, we're not inflated. You can only beat who you play. Well, in this case, they couldn't beat another team that is in the top 5. So I think for Miami, it's like they have the potential to maybe get there. Their defense is going to have to be a little bit better. Vic Fangio, I trust him, as a defensive coordinator, one of the best in the league. But right now, Miami isn't where they need to be to compete for a Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
after putting up 70 points, people started thinking, well, Miami's going to go to the Super Bowl. Not so fast. They got to win games like this, and they can't yet. So what's your takeaway?
Dude, this was a tough one for Miami to take, man. Like to take this L was tough because they've lost to the Eagles and now the Bills, right? Like those are their two losses. Those are two playoff teams. Their other wins, not very impressive, I think. Like they've beat the Panthers or, they beat Tampa Bay or something like that. Like they've beat some bad teams. The Cardinals probably being one of them too. When you go up against the playoff talent, Philly was in the Super Bowl last year. You've got to be able to get close to looking like that offense to put up 70. Yes, you're going against a much better defense, by far a much better defense than any competition really, except the Bills really, that you've played. You've got to do something close or similar to that. This is really, really going to knock the Dolphins down, I think, in a lot of people's power rankings, because again, this is, 7-8 games are already a third of the way through the season. Like this is when you start looking at like, oh, who was the competition again? Oh, okay, maybe it's not that great. Maybe it's not these wins, this 5-2 record isn't that impressive. The Bears went 6-0 one year and they didn't make the playoffs because
we did that too.
Yeah, like it's insane, like how this happens, right? Like Miami,
we're the same team. We are fans of the same team.
We are. Miami might be 5-2 right now, losing to the Eagles. They may not make the playoffs, right? Like that's a possibility, and because of the competition, that's where I'm getting at. I'm not saying that right now. I'm just saying that's a big possibility because of the competition they've played. Philadelphia. Defense was amazing. They didn't let Tua do anything, right? Like they didn't pressure him that much. In Miami, they're rushing, their defensive, their quarterback rushing was outstanding. Like it was good. Like they put a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts said, okay, yeah, cool. I'm going to run it. I'm also just going to throw it and show you why we were a Super Bowl team last year. AJ Brown had 137 yards receiving, 10 catches and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, a touchdown and 77 yards. DeAndre Swift, 62 yards rushing and 13 yards receiving after 3 receptions. Like this team is just built freaky different. And they went up against a Miami team that came into this with, big dick swinging, man. Like, dude, let's be honest, right? Like, and they got, in my opinion, they got destroyed because of the domination.
I got to say this really quick about adding Julio Jones, because my dad's buddy, he's a big Eagles fan. So we were at a taco place yesterday, having a couple beers, and we were talking about the Eagles because the Pat McAfee show was on, and he was like, he said this. He was like, picture this: you're on the 10-yard line, and the Eagles come up, right? Jalen Hurts, quarterback, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, Dallas Goedert, who's one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Julio Jones. Now I understand Julio Jones, can you stay healthy? They just need him to go out onto the field when they're on the 10-yard line and be a threat. That's it.
Yeah.
And now, like, that roster, man, when he said that to me, like, I knew that.
Yeah.
But when he said it like that, I was like, you know what, man? I don't even know, like, how you would defend something like that. Seriously, like, what would it take to keep Philly out of the end zone with that lineup? When you want to stop the run, we got all these options. You want to lock them down, we can run it. Oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts can run it himself. Or we can just get one of the best tight ends in the NFL involved. I mean, there's just so many ways for the Eagles to beat you. And the resilience of Jalen Hurts was on full display the entire night.
Yep.
The second half, once it was getting underway, Hurts was a late arrival, and he came out sporting a brace on his left leg. Hurts also had a bad fumble in the first half, and he had a worse interception that was actually returned for 6 in the second. quarter. So, but Hurts kept coming back though, and leading up to Sunday and during the game, Hurts and Tua facing off for the first time since he replaced them in the Alabama. Like, this was a big deal. We talked about it during the stream on Sunday Night Football, but this was a big game for Hurts. And think about this, man. He goes out against Alabama. He has a bad first half, gets benched for Tua. Tua comes back and wins that game. Jalen Hurts, in a full redemptive narrative, has a mistake, a fumble, a pick six, and guess what? No one's going to bench him because he's fucking Jalen Hurts now. And he comes out there in the second half and he's like, not only am I not being benched, I'm going to lead my team to victory and prove that at this stage of my career, I'm the better quarterback. I love the Jalen Hurts story. It's not often that a player can get benched in the most important game of their life, and it doesn't cripple their character. It doesn't cripple their athletic abilities. It doesn't play mind games with them. He's a true professional. He's a professional in every single way. I think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, and another dub for the Eagles. And this was an important win, I think, for the world to see after the Eagles getting their first loss last week. I believe against what was it, against the Rams?
The Rams, I believe.
I think it was the Rams. But regardless, they were coming off of a loss. This is the game the world needed to see from the Eagles, and they delivered.
Kyle, I want to give you two stats, and it was actually the Jets. They lost against the Jets.
The Jets, yeah, that's right.
Jets. And tell me which one's crazier. In this game, the Eagles had 0 penalties. Okay, 0 penalties, 0 flags. Little sus, just a tad bit sus. I don't know. Yeah, a little suspect. I don't know how you go a whole game. Yeah, let's be honest. In this NFL, with the refs fucking throwing the flag for anything, it's a little sus. Or which one's crazier? That one, or the fact that the Dolphins, 2 losses, come to teams with winning records, and they've lost by an average of 21 points, both of those games.
Say the last sentence one more time about 21 points.
They've lost by an average of 21 points, both of those games. Combined, they've lost by an average of 21 points.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say
insane.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. I think when it comes to the penalty thing, for anybody that is, legitimately saying that's kind of sus, I think it's more sus that if they were trying to do that they wouldn't throw at least one. You know what I mean? To be like, hey,
I don't know. I'm just saying things because they happen.
Yeah. You also just can't throw one just to throw it either. Like, there's got to be some kind of play that you show obvious holding and I think it called or something, because they might have just played a clean game. This is a lot of flags come from holding, right? It's probably the most penalized penalty in the NFL. But this is the best, maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. They're all veterans. So yeah, I just, that 21 point thing is crazy. All their losses by 21 points. This is a really good, I'll give you a stat. Each of AJ Brown's 10 receptions came against the Dolphins in off coverage, meaning 5 yards of cushion. Brown currently leads the NFL in targets, 58, receptions, 43, and receiving yards, 625 against off coverage this season. So basically, AJ Brown, you give him 5 yards of cushion, and that is the most favorable matchup in the NFL for a wide receiver. You have to press him. You have, excuse me, you have to get physical on the line against him because he's so physical. And AJ Brown recorded his 5th straight 125 plus yard receiving game, tying guess who? Who do you think he tied? It's not Jerry Rice.
Moss.
Not Randy Moss. I'll give you 2 more guesses.
Right? You said not Jerry Rice? Megatron.
Yes.
Tying
AJ Brown. Tying Calvin Johnson. He tied himself. No.
That's how you know we do Only Football here on Only Football.
And Pat Studstill. I don't know who that is, but he played in 1966. So,
oh yeah, of course.
yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, Pat
Oh
Studd still.
yeah.
Yeah, that guy was awesome. But yeah, man, this is a really good team. This team is a machine, an
Chip
absolute
Brown, yeah.
machine. There's one other team that's an absolute machine, but the machine is malfunctioning. Are you ready to roll into Monday Night
Yes.
Football?
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. The 49ers taking an L against Minnesota. Brock Purdy throwing a really ugly late interception. No Debo Samuel. I'm not sure if Trent Williams was playing or not.
Don't believe so.
CMC was in the game, but it seems like right now the 49ers are a little rattled. I've just seen too much dominance from the 49ers to sell low or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to my stock in the 49ers. I'm going to ride the last two losses. I don't think it's a reason to bail, but it is a reason to raise some eyebrows and be a little concerned. Hey, what the fuck's going on with our team and why are we losing? But take no credit away from the Vikings, man. They played a great game. I rewatched it this morning because I wasn't able to watch it last night. And I was like, man, the Vikings came out and they played a really good game. The play calling from was it? Who's their
O'Connell.
I was trying to remember his first name, and I was going to say Aiden O'Connell, and I'm like, no, that's the quarterback for the Raiders. Kevin O'Connell, I think.
KOC, yep.
He had just a couple moments where like they would have a blitz coming in, they would bring the safety down. It's the perfect play call to throw the screen. And that happened a couple times where it was like he was calling the perfect plays at the perfect time, and they were able to run the football. They took the ball away. And early, there was that early fumble from Christian McCaffrey. The Vikings were able to pick it up. Normally, this would be a situation where it's like, oh, here we go again. But the Vikings actually showed some resilience, and they were like, we can overcome. This is the first time we saw them say, them show that they can overcome bad things happening. And I think for the whole talk about should we trade Kirk Cousins, I think all that ended with this game, to be completely honest, at least for this season. But this is a game I'm excited to get your takeaway because, there's two ways to look at this game and they're totally different. I mean, it's one side, you're saying the 49ers are kind of going through a funk right now, but then on the other side, it's like maybe Minnesota showed that they're capable of being much better than they have been this season so far. So curious to know which side you're kind of leaning on here.
First of all, I've overcome before. That's just messy. Secondly, the two biggest reasons the San Francisco 49ers lost this game. Number one, this is the first reason they lost. Brock Purdy had a very not so good game. The very not so good game played by Brock Purdy. That's what we're going to call this one. This one was a rough one for him. Had 272 yards and threw for a touchdown, but had two bad interceptions and was really pressured all night. Like this Vikings defense, we talked about it when they were playing against the Bears. They pressure the fuck out of teams. This, what's his name? The defensive coordinator over there right now? I forget his name. Former Miami Dolphins head coach.
The Mike McDaniel.
No. Former Dolphins coach.
Oh,
now defensive coordinator for the Vikings. We've said his name before.
Yeah. I'll say it once you start again.
Yeah.
I'm trying
that's what they do.
Brian Flores.
That's what Brian Flores and this Vikings defense does, man. They pressure you and it almost becomes like just like you're becoming like just put in a small room. Like you can't move. That's exactly what Brock Purdy looked like last night, man. And it was rough. He threw for a lot of yards, and for Kittle, he got 78 of those yards with 5 receptions. He got a lot of those, but it was rough for Brock Purdy to really get going. You know what I mean? Like Brock Purdy does sit in that pocket and is that kind of quarterback. He'll move when he needs to, but he's a very much like, I'm going to sit in this pocket, make the reads. We've talked about it before in the Kyle Shanahan offense. A lot of quarterbacks would succeed in that offense. The other reason, the defense got 0 sacks on Kirk Cousins. And we're talking about the 49ers defense. 0 sacks. in this game, you would have thought like the Minnesota Vikings have a 49ers offensive line with the way they played. They got 0 sacks in this game, and that's why Kirk Cousins was able to go out there and win this game. 378 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, he did work. Both of those touchdowns, Jordan Addison, by the way, the rookie taking over for Justin Jefferson. So those were the 2 biggest reasons why they lost. The Vikings took advantage of interceptions, of turnovers, of just being able to get down the field. But ultimately, dude, I really think the 49ers lost this game.
Yeah, the 49ers did. And that's why when I look forward, I'm like, look, don't expect me to stop picking the 49ers because because they didn't show up. I mean, look, it's the NFL. It's hard to win. I mean, at any point, a team like Minnesota at home, did you see that, man? They're blowing the
Yeah, that was insane.
Dude, I was fired up. I was like, put a helmet on me. Like, let's go. But yeah, man, it was a week of football to remind everybody no one knows what's going to happen. Whether the stocks are going to go up or down. It's a fugazi. It's you know what fugazi. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not fucking real. All right. We don't really know what's going to happen with these teams, but on Only Football, we'll give you our best predictions. And on a week like this, we're going to be way off a lot. And I think that's what's beautiful about the NFL. That's why I love the NFL more than college. I love that it's so competitive. There's only 32 teams, and there's only a handful of bad ones. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a really, really great week of football, and we'll see if the world is not flat week 8, because right now, nothing's making sense.
The world is flat. You heard it here first on Only Football from Kyle. All right, Kyle. Let's get
Kyrie.
No, this isn't only basketball. It's only football.
Oh, my bad.
Let's get into our next segment. Running back of the week. And to be honest, we didn't have too much to choose from. I'm not going to. I've got mine. I've got 2. But you mentioned it earlier, and we both have this same one. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away. Who do you have for running back of the week, Kyle?
All right. So I don't know yours. We might have the same guy. I'm not entirely sure. But my guy is got to be Dante Foreman.
Yep. That's who I had
Dante Foreman. No, you didn't have him. Dante Dude, I'm really, really bummed. I told you in the beginning, I picked him up, and then I was like, no, I'm going to go with Smadre P. Ryan so I can cheer for my team. I should have just went with Foreman, man. My gut was telling me to do it, and I didn't do it. And what did he do? Well, he just had 16 carries for 89 yards, averaged 5.6 yards a carry, had 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, a receiving touchdown, 31 yards, averaged 10 yards per reception, went completely off. And look, nothing's been easy for the Bears this season. You got to respect somebody that comes to work in that type of a manner. And it's like, look, he wasn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not even like the clear RB1 in Chicago.
He was a healthy scratch for 4 weeks after week 1 until Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson got hurt. So not at all.
Okay. So that to me is what is even more impressive, is because he comes out and it looks like, oh, hey, you guys have no choice now. You have to feed this guy next week and see if he can build off this. It's like after Swift had, his monster week 3 performance, it was like, all right, obviously we're going to feed the hot hand. Dante Foreman not starting, not discouraged about it, and now put himself in a position just from 1 week of dominating to be forced the hot hand in the upcoming weeks. D'Onta Foreman, congratulations on making it to our running back of the week. And also, D'Onta Foreman is a nomination, probably will win the nomination for FedEx Ground Player of the Week.
Oh, yeah.
So shout out to Foreman for that.
Yeah, dude. He was the one I had as well. And I got another one just in case, but he was the one I had as well. He was running angry, man. The Bears do one thing very well these last couple of years and really in their history, and that's run the damn ball. They ran the damn ball with D'Onta Foreman. And credit, just a little credit to Darrington Evans. I'm not going to put him on running back of the week, but credit to Darrington Evans. Also, the last couple of weeks, he's been doing very well for the Bears after being picked up off of the practice squad of the Dolphins. But D'Onta Foreman ran angry. He ran well. He had 3 total touchdowns. Like, dude was a savage this game against the Raiders. So big props to him. My other running back of the week is a guy who made it back in week 7, I think, after being injured for a couple weeks. That was Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 11 carries for 68 yards with a touchdown, 9 receptions, and 58 yards. He was trying out there. He was the only offense the Lions had. He was the only offense the Lions had. He came off of injury and said, you know what? Give me the rock. I'm going to do my best. And he came out with 150 yards, 120 yards or something like that total. So credit to Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in a game where the Lions looked bad offensively. He was the only bright spot for the Lions in this game.
Yeah, and if they can keep, giving him Dwayne Johnson, you know what I mean? Things are going to be great. I know you mentioned that they gave him the rock. He probably pumped him up. He probably said, can you smell what the rock is cooking? Probably called them jabronis and did the people's eyebrow for all of you kids in the 90s that watched WWF.
Christ,
I was a big rock guy. Still am.
Christ.
Good pick. I do have one more.
Yep.
I didn't want this to get lost on us because it was Thursday Night Football. And it's not Travis Etienne, which, by the way, he'll be an honorable mention here because he did have 53 yards but 2 touchdowns. But instead, I'm going to go to the other side. Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara had a really great game. He had 29 fantasy points. They gave him 17 carries. Now, remember, he was suspended week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in week 4 through 7, listen to these fantasy numbers, okay? 21.4, 18.7, 17.4, 29.3. If he didn't have the suspension, this could be the number 1 fantasy running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
Or number 2. So Alvin Kamara had a really bad season last year, and especially kind of coming into the season with the 4-game suspension. I just kind of chalked it up to maybe this guy's lost the step, but he had himself a game that reminded the whole NFL that Alvin Kamara is still one of the best options in the NFL at running back. And he got 35 receiving yards in the first and second half, which won me $250. So
let's go.
I would be happy about that too. And the only funny thing is every time those $250 bets go through, I think, I placed $2 on this. What
I could have won this and this. I know, dude. It's always that regret, even though you just won.
Exactly. It's never good enough. It's just fucking greed,
Yep.
But still, man, Jacksonville's defense was leading the league in takeaways. And now I think the 49ers reclaim that even though they lost. But man, you gotta shout out Alvin Kamara. He's back.
For sure. Week 7 running backs of the week: D'Onta Foreman, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Alvin Kamara. Let's give it up for those boys. All right, Kyle. Let's move on to the next segment, the most contentious of them all.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5, top 5. Top 5, top 5, no debating. Top 5. Which one
Top 5.
It gets the most views or on some of our videos that we take from this episode. It gets some of the most views, and people love power rankings. We love power rankings. People love searching for power rankings on YouTube. You love reading about power rankings. We do our top 5. We may or may not do our bottom 5, depending on how we want to do this. But let's get into our top 5 right now. I've got, just to give you guys a little tease here, I've got 2 teams entering the top 5 that I didn't have last week, and I've got obviously 2 teams leaving the top 5 that I had on last week. But I'll go first, and this one was the hardest one for me. At number 5, Kyle, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5 right now. They are impressive. Trevor Lawrence and this Jacksonville offense is doing Duval, you heard it right. Right now, Jaguars are number 5 in the power rankings. They started off 1-2, and now they are, what is it? 1-2. They're 5.
They're on the longest win streak in the NFL right now.
That's true. They are 5-2 right now, or 4-2. Is it 5-2? 5-2.
So they've won
now.
5 in a row.
Yep. So I am taking the Jaguars at number 5. Kyle, who's your number 5?
I still got the Browns at number 5. I understand that it's not a popular pick at this point in the season, but like winning a football game by scoring almost 40 points, 39 points, like to me, that's the kind of resilience that a top 5 team needs to have. Like you didn't even have Deshaun Watson. Like to me, if there's one thing that I think is keeping my opinion dumb on the outside looking in, it's that people don't understand how good I think Deshaun Watson is capable of playing this year when they get their shit together. Like I actually would bump them down to put Jacksonville there, but it just doesn't make sense because they didn't lose, So it's like definitely like there's a fringe top 5 area going on right now, and there's a lot of like the Ravens, the Jaguars, the Browns, even the Steelers are moving their way into the top 15, closer to the top 10. So there's a lot to love right now. There's a lot of options. I'm going to stick with my pick with the Browns. They're 4-2. They haven't had Deshaun Watson for a couple games, yet this team continues to win. Defensively, played their worst game of the season. I expect that to tighten back up and them to bounce back at home next week in a big way.
I still don't love the pick, but you got to go with it. You got to keep going with it. All right. And Kyle had a bunch of good reasons to why to put the Browns there. All right, my number 4 team, a team that was on my top 5 earlier this year, but has re-entered. I've got the Baltimore Ravens at number 4. The Baltimore Ravens at number 4, they kicked the absolute dog shit out of the Detroit Lions 38-6. They moved to 5-2, number 1 in the AFC North. Lamar's playing like a madman. The offense is clicking. The offense has wide receivers. Lamar has options. He stayed in the pocket for like 10 seconds at one play and was like, I'm a passer first. Bam, completed it. Got close to a touchdown. Like that's what you want Lamar right now, right? And that's what I'm looking for Justin Fields to fucking do. Anyway, the defense is good. Getting to the dominant status, maybe. I don't think they're a top 5 defense, but as a team, I think they're top 5. I got Ravens at number 4.
Yeah, I don't got a problem with that. Actually, this is going to be weird. I got the Lions at number 4.
Okay.
And the reason is because I really do, because I watched that game, right? Because I really was cheering for the Lions in that game. Like the Ravens had the best game of the season against the Lions. And it shows that they can, what are they really capable of? Because next week they're playing the Cardinals. So that's another good, win. And then a winnable game against the Seahawks. Then they got the Browns. We'll see how this shakes up in the next couple of weeks. But for the Lions, they got a bounce back game as well. They're playing the Raiders on Monday night. I think that this is a good opportunity for the Lions to, like, I'm not worried about the Lions because we've already seen the Lions start seasons 0-7 and finish with a winning record or one game shy of a winning record. This is look, they got down early. They couldn't really, kick the field goals. They didn't have the luxury of that. I think the score is a little more spread out than the box score would suggest. And I still think the Lions, are one just ass whooping away against the Raiders for everybody to be like, oh, the Lions are good again. They weren't bad. They had a bad day. It was a bad day at the office. When I look at the Ravens, the team that beat them, the Ravens lost to the Colts in week 3. Right? The Browns just beat the Colts. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But they also lost week 5 to the Steelers.
Yeah.
And, it's just when I look at it, it's like the Ravens, if they can do what they did on Sunday next week, now I have to move them into my top 5. But right now, it's a great win. They're on my radar, but I'm going to keep the Lions in my top 5 for now because they've been more consistent. They beat the Chiefs week 1, so I'm just going to see how that plays out.
All right. Love it. And for anybody watching on YouTube right now, in the comments, let us know who your top 5 NFL teams are after week 7. Number 3 for myself. They took a bad loss on Monday Night Football, and they took a tumble. But they're still in the top 5. Kyle and I said it. We would still pick them to win games. The San Francisco 49ers, dude. They took that loss. It's got to be one of those where you look at that and you're like, okay, they're still, 5-1? Or they're 5-2 now? They still have a dominant defense. They still have a very good offense. They've got plenty of playmakers on that offense. They've got plenty of playmakers on the defense. This team isn't going to be a Monday night loss for the rest of the season. They're not. We can point out to who they've played, who they've lost to, who they've won against, all that. But it's just so much talent. Great coaching, Kyle Shanahan. They've been to the playoffs with lesser quarterback play and lesser overall offensive play. So the 49ers are my number 3 team. Kyle, who do you have at number 3?
At number 3, I hate to agree with you, but I have the 49ers as well. They got a tumble. They lost 2 games in a row. The Vikings aren't necessarily a team that's like, oh, of course they lost. It was a week of the best teams in the NFL getting beat, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to flip everything upside down, but the 49ers I had at number 1 with you. They don't look right now like the best team in the NFL. Power rankings, they change. I didn't really expect the 49ers, though, to move from number 1 at any point in the season. And it is surprising, but there's worse places to be than number 3, on the top 5. So Bears. I think 49ers, the Bears. So I think, look, when it comes to the top 3, we're gonna have the same top 3. But when it comes to it, you might see some movement based on what happens week to week. But I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers 5 weeks from now are back at number 1. So
I agree. Number 2 for me, and we might have the same number 2. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh, okay.
Kansas City Chiefs at number 2, 424 yards from Mahomes, 12 catches to Kelsey and a touchdown. Taylor Swift is at their games. Like, dude, they're week 7. It was their like little cherry on top to be like, we're back, bitches. That's how it is right now in Kansas City. That's what I think is going to be like for Kansas City. Again, we talked about it earlier. If Mahomes and this team can get back to the Super Bowl this year, which they're very capable of doing, and they can win it, they're a fucking dynasty. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Like, that's what it is. And right now, the Chiefs are at number 2.
Yeah, I love that pick. Right now, I actually have the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. Ooh. I think the Eagles and the Chiefs, right? Those are the 2 teams that it's kind of coming down to. No secret. But when I look at I'll save that for number one. For the Eagles, I just think they're a very good team, and there's just, whether you're at 1 or 2, it's the same shit, man. It's the 2 best teams in the NFL at this point, and the Eagles have so much talent on that team. I do think they should win the Super Bowl this year. I am fully bought in to the Eagles and thinking that they can ultimately be the best team in the NFL. But there's something else going on with another team, and it's too late into the season to ignore the consistency we're seeing from a different side of the ball here on my number one team.
100%. And that's something that I think I forgot to add as well for my number 2, but my number 1 is actually the Eagles too. They proved that they are exactly the same team, not exactly the same team, but they were basically the same team from last year. You mentioned it on our predictions episode. They lost their coordinators. Those are huge pieces to this puzzle that is the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're still producing. They're still beating teams. They haven't beat amazing teams. Their loss came against the Jets, who have a very good defense, and they have had for the last 2 years. They've got wins against the Commanders, the Rams, the Bucks, the Vikings, and the Patriots. That's their wins. But the way they've been doing it has been the same from the Eagles last year. And their defense is just as good. Jalen Carter is a fucking menace at defensive tackle. And you gave some stats about how he's got pressure or his winning rate at the line, whatever it may be. This Eagles team, along with the tush push, number 1 in the NFL for me right now.
Yeah. that play, by the way, completely unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. And that's you see other teams trying it and failing, and it's oh, well, we don't have to get rid of this rule because if you're an Eagles fan, you love that because there's been a lot of threats about, hey, what if they take this away from us? Well, you're starting to see other teams try it with not the same success. I mentioned it's because he gets so low in his stance, he gets leverage. My number 1 team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs.
This is a lot for Kyle to say this. This is a lot for Kyle to say this. I want you guys to know this.
Uh-oh. We quietly let general manager Brett Veach build a defense around Patrick Mahomes. Quietly. When you look up who is nominated or what are the odds for Defensive Player of the Year, you won't find a single Chief in there because there's not one player that's doing all the work. Collectively as a team, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing amazing right now. And this is the thing, especially something you don't want to hear if you're an AFC West fan. The defense is just getting started right now. The average age of their defenders on snap-weighted basis is 25.4 years old, which makes them the youngest defense in football. So
amazing.
While on Sunday it was, Patrick Mahomes reigning MVP's best game of the season, Kansas City's winning football games as much with its defense this year than it has ever. So when I look at Kansas City and I say they have the best quarterback in the world ever, and now they have a defense, we've never even been in this situation. It's always been Mahomes is so good, he can compensate for a 22 ranked passing defense, right? Their defense was never dog shit. But their defense is now the number 2 defense in the NFL in a lot of categories, and they're the youngest in the NFL. And it kind of feels like that was the one thing we couldn't let happen, and we all let it happen quietly and slowly. The Kansas City Chiefs, they got to be a Super Bowl favorite at this point because of the recipe. If anyone can beat them, it's Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why I got them at number 2. But right now, Kansas City, best team in the NFL.
Kyle, are we about to see a rematch of last year's Super Bowl this year?
Probably.
Oh, shit.
It's looking a lot like it. And I think if we do get a rematch, I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm calling my shot now. We are going to see a Chiefs-Eagles rematch
right
in this year's Super Bowl. Right fucking now.
Taking out on Monday night.
That's who I am. I'm me.
No 49ers Chiefs rematch. That would be a rematch too.
That would be a good one.
That was Mahomes' first Super Bowl was against the
Yeah?
Niners.
Wait, was it?
Yeah. It was
Oh shit!
he
Yeah.
beat the 49ers, then he lost against Tampa, and then he beat and then he beat the Eagles. No.
Yeah.
Then they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship, and the Bengals played the Rams.
Yeah.
And then last year he won the Super Bowl again. I mean, we're gonna lose track of this eventually.
Yep.
But
Eventually we will.
Mahomes is gonna be in the Super Bowl, it seems like, every year. And why not? Because it's really what's really interesting is, like, with everything going on, the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, the Phillies, in the playoffs, it just seems like they're in a really, really good place right now. Like, it seems like, when you just have a good couple years of your life where you look back and you're like, man, that was the best years of my life. I really do think right now for Travis Kelce, for Patrick Mahomes, the way the Chiefs are, the Taylor Swift stuff, I really just feel like they have that thing that they're playing with magic. It's not getting to their heads. They're able to stay poised. Like Travis Kelce, he's got so much going on in his personal life, and he continues to be, the best wide receiver, tight end, wide receiver, whatever, in the NFL. It just kind of feels like they're, I don't know if they did some voodoo or something, but it just seems like they got the football gods on their side.
Yep. I 100% agree. And let us know if you agree with our top five, and let us know in the comments who your top 5 teams in the NFL are right now.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
All right. We're getting to the end of the show, and we always end off with Kyle. What do we always end off with?
What is it? I was at Morton's Steakhouse today.
What is that called?
Ordered a Wagyu beef steak, and they came out and they sprinkled something in it. The Chives.
The Chives with Kyle.
It was the Chives that they did, and it's the Chives you will get now.
What do you got, Kyle?
Kareem Jackson was actually ejected into the game for having a violent hit against the Green Bay Packers. Now, he was ejected from Sunday's game because of his hit against Luke Musgrave in the fourth quarter. But it was the second time this season that Jackson was ejected for an illegal hit. And I saw it happen a couple weeks ago. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching this hit. And to me, when I look at this hit, an ejection to me seemed uncalled for. Like it was late, it's the fourth quarter. The Packers are trying to get a touchdown. Luke Musgrave catches the ball. The only way to try to break this play up is for our strong safety to come lay the hammer. He leaned like this, right? And it literally, if you lean, your helmet literally is above your shoulder. So it was like his helmet hit and then his shoulder hit. By no means was it, in my opinion, a dirty hit. So they ended up suspending him it was going to be 4 games. And today it got overturned. He's going to miss 2 games. So we're missing our safety against Buffalo and Kansas City. That's great. And then when it got reduced to 2 games, this is what the football vice president said. He said, on the playing question, you delivered a forceful blow to the head, neck area of a defenseless receiver when you had the time and space to avoid such contact. Vice President of Football Operations John Runyon wrote in a letter to Jackson, you could have made contact with your opponent within the rules, yet you chose not to. I understand the NFL, and all this stuff, but this to me seemed like a play that you want your safety to make. Like, this is like why you got, I've said it a million times, Kareem Jackson, our only dog on defense. He's the only guy that's going to come with a head full of steam and just light you up. Yeah. And honestly, if you don't have that, what's the threat? That used to be what made people scared to come across the middle. Yep. And I've played receiver before. When you get hit really hard, you don't think about going in certain places anymore. You might drop some balls. I just don't really like the suspension, but Kareem Jackson did get it reduced from 4 games to 2 games. And if he does it again, he may be permanently banned from the NFL. So this is where we're at right now. Kareem Jackson is, being considered a dirty player right now. They asked Sean Payton about it today. He said, I just know where he's at as a player. We'll keep working on that. Coach Payton said on Monday, I know he'll keep working on it. He's someone that's smart and really wants to do the right thing. He's one of the toughest parts of our game. Oh, it's one of the toughest parts of the game for the officials, for players, for all of us involved, of getting that to where it's clear and easy. Sometimes it's just not. This was definitely a situation where this could have gone, bang, bang. When he got ejected, we were all like, even my dad, who was going for the Packers, was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he being ejected?
Mm-hmm.
Because normally it's like you get one, and then if you do it again, you get ejected. Now the NFL, because he's done this in the past, is like 1 strike and you're out, which makes you have to play football differently on defense. This is just something to keep in mind, as we're kind of in this merger of football where we're caring, more about the player's safety and health, and how it's going to affect defensively. So the original 4-game suspension was the longest punishment for violating player safety rules since 2019, when Cleveland Browns' Myles Garrett was suspended indefinitely for hitting the Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph with a helmet. He eventually missed 6 games, but this is our biggest suspension for violating player safety rules since 2019. Too big of a story to not break here on the Chives. Yep. So if you haven't seen that hit, go ahead and YouTube it. Kareem Jackson's hit on tight end for the Packers, Luke Musgrave, in the 4th quarter. All
right. Well, that was the Chives with Kyle. Bill did have a good question, though. Hasn't he been fined like 4 times for it so far? And I think he has had
just hitting people hard. You know what I mean?
It is NFL, dude. That's what it is.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, it's tough. It's tough from somebody like Kareem Jackson, who I think he's in his 13th year, because he's kind of, imagine you kind of made it this far in your NFL career because of those hits. And now, as the NFL transit, and now it's like, okay, well, that's all I have. I compensate for my lack of speed with my powerful hits. And it's like, if he can't find a way to, excel without that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him, or if this might be his last year. But he's one more hit away. We'll keep an eye on that in a couple of weeks, because when he comes back on the field and we're streaming Bronco games, we're going to be looking out. And if he does it again, I'm telling you, we might be live when Kareem Jackson takes his last snap.
Well, there you go. That was the Chives with Kyle. I want to thank everybody who was in the comments and viewing today. Bill, you were in the comments. We love it. We always love you. We always love Bill. We're talking good about the Giants now too, Bill. So you're going to start tuning into the show with like some anticipation. Like they're going to talk good about the Giants.
They're going to talk like good about my Giants.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody who tuned in, everybody who liked, everybody who shared. We appreciate all the love. And we're on our quest to 500 subs on YouTube. So please subscribe if you could. That would be very much appreciated. And you could follow us on all of our social medias at Star6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook, and at _Star6 Media on Twitter. You could follow me at and now Rick on Twitters, on the tweets up there. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at FTBLONLYPODCAST for some good Twitters. Actually, what I'm going to do, some good Twitters. God, I'm going to be
Twitters. I love it.
You're going to get a lot of good Twitters. And you're also, if you check in 20 minutes after this show, I will post Kareem Jackson's hits. So you don't have to search for it.
There you go. This is the type of stuff we're bringing you. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Kyle, I will see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.